Welcome to the Taylor Made Tasty podcast. I'm Taylor, retired serial quitter turned goal boss coach, speaker, and consultant. I believe a beautiful life starts with a beautiful mindset. Join me as we amplify confidence, resilience, and actionable tools on the road to quit quitting on you and your vision. You are worthy of your goals, so let's go get there. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Taylor Made Tasty, the podcast. Today's episode features a guest by the name of Jessica Winne. And as we are approaching the end of the year and the beginning of next year, which is always a great time to look at your goals, this conversation is about the science behind goal setting and how you can use your behavior or desired behavior to help crush your goals. Jessica is also going to give and explain the ABCs of goal setting and how to avoid idolizing quick behavior change and instead focus on our own journey and happiness. A little bit about our guest. Jessica Winne is a board certified behavior analyst, BCBA in the house, that works at a state-supported living center in Texas. Currently, she serves at a BCBA for adults with disabilities. Her passions include building meaningful relationships with others, coaching others' people's management, and goal setting. She has lost 100 pounds and has successfully done that through applying her behavior analytic skill set. She loves to watch others succeed and give them the simple behavior analytic tools to change their lives. She is a KC native and a proud sister, daughter, and aunt. She has 2 kitties and 1 dog that she loves to spoil. Please help me welcome Jessica to the show and let's get into it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Can you believe it's time for the annual Vision Board Party? It's back, Saturday, December 3rd. This Vision Board Party offers an empowering and imaginative goal-setting session where participants will learn the fundamentals of creating a vision board, but more importantly, break down big goals into attainable milestones for the coming year. The first part of the workshop consists of guided meditation, reflection, and journaling designed to open up the mind before we jump into action. The second half is dedicated to building the vision, where participants will transfer their goals into milestones with deadlines and ultimately into a graphic representation of their big dreams. You can find more information at taylormadetasty.com/vision board. And for all my podcast listeners, use code PODCAST for 10% off any package. Let's go get there in 2023.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, Jessica. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I am so excited. We have a personal relationship, and you have spoken to my community before, and I'm very thankful for that. But I'm excited about this episode because we're going to get a little nerdy, as I like to say, in the best way possible about the science behind goal setting and how you can use behavior principles to make goal crushing more likely to happen. So I would love for you to talk about what behavior tools are and then what happens when we use behavior tools to set up our goals.
Yes. So is this PG-13 podcast or R or
No,
PG?
absolutely not. Go crazy.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure before I explain things. So the first behavior strategy is reinforcement. So reinforcement refers to increasing behavior. So this is what we want. Like if you want to exercise more, you're going to use reinforcement and rewards to make that happen more often. So reinforcement, and there's 2 different types, but that's getting real nerdy. And so I'll just say reinforcement, there's positive and negative. Positive is something's added, negative, it's taken away. It's a little more complicated than that, but when you think of reinforcement, think of behavior happens more often in the future. And then there's punishment. punishment isn't necessarily like people think spanking, timeout, and those are procedures within punishment, but punishment basically is behavior happening less often. And there's two types: positive, something's added; negative, something's taken away. But let's just refer it to reinforcement and punishment. So, and those are two I'm just going to talk about in terms of setting up goals, because there's, of course, a lot of different behavior principles, but let's talk about these two in terms of setting goals and how we can make goal setting more likely to happen. So when we set up goals, we want them to be reinforcing, because when we meet goals, we want it to happen more often. So to do that, we would probably use another tool called shaping, which means breaking down the goal into smaller pieces. Because you run, and I'm amazed you run. We both live in Texas. I don't know how the hell you do it, but props to you. You will not see me running at 3 a.m. I might be running in the middle of the day with my clients while it's 100 degrees, but yeah, I'm not running at 3 a.m. But, you know, you didn't start by, let's run a marathon, because that's a very big goal that if you say that to yourself, it will be punished. Not because you're not amazing, but it is because that's a huge goal and you're not going to do it. Like, you cannot go from walking to running a marathon in a day. And I know that sounds easier in your head. Like, you're like, of course I wouldn't say that. But we all know we want perfection overnight. So we immediately want to run that marathon tomorrow. And so when it comes to goals, we want to do them into small steps, because that reinforces us accomplishing that goal, and that makes goal crushing more likely in the future. So if I say I'm going to run for 10 seconds every day for 5 days out of the week, one, you got to be really specific about what the goal looks like, when you're going to do it, and what you're going to do afterwards. And then when you do that, that reinforces and signals the brain like, oh, I accomplished that. And then when you set your next goal, it's going to be more likely that you're going to reach that goal. So when it comes to goal setting, we really want to make sure that we're going to reach that goal, even though it's like a no-brainer, like I'm absolutely going to reach this goal. But that's what we want, because often when we make goals that are too lofty, we don't accomplish them, and we get super punished, and we are way less likely to set goals in the future.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love, obviously I love that principle, because I'm all about breaking it down and making the milestones to get there really attainable. So you brought up a word that's kind of a buzzword in my community, and we've had multiple conversations about this, as a reward. So I'm curious, like, if you have, because we have talked about little things that don't have to do with food, right? So often we use, with all different goals, we use food as a reward. If it's like, oh, I accomplished this big thing at work, let's go out to eat. Oh, I accomplished this big personal goal, let's go get drinks or something like that, right? And so, kind of in the wellness space, moving away from rewards that have to do with food. And so there's been all sorts of them talked about, whether it's like a gift of some sort or a certain book that I don't get to read until I get to this reward and things like that. And so I'm curious if you have ideas of like what those rewards could be to sort of reinforce those good behaviors that is like on a daily basis, right? We're not going to get a book every time yeah, I run a mile. I'm not going to get a book every time I run a mile every day, right? But it's like, how do we sort of reinforce and reward those things on like the daily basis to then create that habit over time?
I think the tricky thing with rewards is often we say that this is a reward and it's not reinforcing. So something I teach to people, if I'm like, you could be like, good job running, and say, good job, or you could, get yourself chocolate or, take yourself out for a margarita. The thing is, like, I'm a board certified behavior analyst, so when it comes to programming for myself or my clients, I really have to ask myself, what is reinforcing? Like, and it depends on the individual, it depends on yourself. So you have to look internally and say, what's going to actually reinforce me for accomplishing this thing? It is going to look totally different for everyone. I lost 100 pounds and I never set up any sort of incentive for myself. I, I think honestly, what was reinforcing for me, which is not the, which is, don't ever do this because it's a terrible reinforcer, but was probably seeing the scale go down. Now that can be another topic for another day. That's very troublesome because you don't want that to be your reward, for many reasons. But I agree. It's in the health and wellness field. Like, it's very tricky to get into the food as a reward because you don't necessarily want that. Um, I think you just need to think about what will really help you. Like, what's something you want, that you don't let yourself have all the time. And the important part is letting it be contingent. You cannot just get it because I can't tell you how many Starbucks drinks I've had that I've let myself have, even though I haven't earned them, because I'm like, well, I have the money, I'm just gonna do it. Like, you have to set it up saying, if I do this, then I get this, and you can't reward it earlier. You have to do it once you do that. And one of our other principles is it has to match. So kind of like you said, you can't have a book every time you read the mile. So you have to, whether it's, I'm going to give myself $5 every mile, every time I do this run, and then I'm gonna take the money, a month from now and go to Barnes and Noble and buy a nice hardcover book. That's more realistic, for matching, because yeah, you it's like, well, if you're gonna get a book every time, then what are you gonna do once you run that marathon?
Right.
Like
Just
you're gonna
have a
have to
bunch
get
of
something.
books.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, like, I don't know, go buy an encyclopedia from those encyclopedia
Right.
sellers. I don't know. But
I'm going to have a bunch of books I haven't read because I've been running.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Your reward would be running it
Yeah,
or reading it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and you bring up a very good point, and we have talked about that too in my community as far as like the self-control of it. Because yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, if as long as you have the financial ability to, you can buy that reward, quote unquote, anytime you want, right? And so it's like you have to create that self control and self awareness, of the goal and the reward aligning with each other, and also the waiting for it, right? Like the excitement of waiting for that, that yes, you can afford that pair of shoes now, but how exciting will it be when you pair it with this goal being
Mhm. Mhm.
accomplished?
Mhm. And that's the biggest word is in our industry is pairing, making sure it is associated with reaching that goal, because then you had the reinforce, like, then you had the intrinsic reinforcer of, like, I feel good on the inside for reaching this goal. And then you had the extrinsic reinforcement of buying that shoe. And then when you combine them, then that's a really powerful reinforcer.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so you know me, I'm all about taking action. And when we were planning for this episode, you mentioned the ABCs of goal setting, of seeing your goals through and making them happen. So I would love for you to explain that to the listeners. Like, what are the ABCs and how do they work?
So A in behavior analysis stands for antecedent, and that's what happens before behavior. The B stands for the behavior, and the C stands for consequence. So what happens afterwards, i.e., the reinforcement and the punishment that we talked about prior. So when you're thinking of goal setting, when we break it down to A, B, C, let's go with the antecedent. So I'm just going to go with running because I'm very impressed by your running, and I know that's a goal of yours. So it's readily available in my mind. So with any physical activity goal, we've done the work. We have our goal, on our sticky note. We're ready. So what is going to cue running to happen? That's what antecedent means. How can I cue myself to make sure I run? I'm ready to do it tomorrow. I've said I want to run for 5 minutes, 5 days a week. And if I do that consistently for 3 weeks, I'm going to go buy some shoes at the Nike store. Okay, so I've really laid out specifically what that looks like. Okay, so it's the night before. How can I make sure that that behavior is going to change? Because so far I'm not running at all, right? So antecedent is how can we make what happens before the behavior? And in this case, we want to look at how can I make that behavior more likely to occur? Because it's not occurring at all right now. So, we hear these in our community of, for a lot of people, it is setting out our clothes the night before, making sure we have a water bottle in the fridge, setting an alarm. For me, it's finding exercise classes I will go to, or finding an online community where I commit to doing a workout the next day. So that's really what it means to be antecedent. For you for the running, let's say, all right, I'm gonna set out my clothes. I'm gonna have my water bottle ready and my fanny pack ready with all the stuff I need, and I'm gonna set my alarm. When it goes off, I'm gonna get up, get changed, and go run. And then the behavior, of course, that's our goal. So behavior needs to always, always, always be, what are you doing? It is not, I'm this, I'm, I weigh this much. This is my run time. I'm going to be skinny. Those are not behaviors at all. Our behavior is, I'm going to run for 5 minutes. That's just your behavior. That's what you're doing. That's what it looks like. If you want to be really specific with times, you could say I want to run for 5 minutes at this pace. That would be fine too, because you can measure that. Behavior has to be measurable. And if you're a better behavior analyst than me, then you record it. I did never record any of my stuff, but it's important to do it. And then our consequence is what happens immediately after. So once we run those 5 minutes, what happens afterwards? Okay. So if you really think about the punishment, if we didn't do the A and the B, you're going to be punished. It's like, I overslept in my bed and because I said I'd run 20 minutes and I'm running late for work, so it didn't happen. So that's the punishment. So we are not going to probably run again. But let's say we were smart, we broke it down, and we ran for 5 minutes, all that stuff. So that consequence can be, I have my money jar, I'm putting the $5 in, and then I'm done with my run, So that's really what comes in terms when I talk about the ABCs of goal setting. That's how we can break it down and really reach success and be reinforced by goal setting. So not only are we being reinforced in the moment for reaching our goal, we are going to create more goals in the future because we are finding that we finally can be reinforced by our own goal crushing.
Yes, I love how it's like such a simple concept, but also so deep and so actionable. So I absolutely love how you explain that. Good, good, good. So I think in some ways social media is like the greatest thing ever. In other ways it can be harmful for comparison and a lot of other things, right? And you talk about how society idolizes like really quick behavior change and quick happiness, like some TikTokers make it look easy, if you will. Why do you think that that happens?
I'm sorry, but fuck it, Instagram. It's driving me crazy. It, oh gosh, this is such a deep topic for me that I'm really so opinionated about. So I'm gonna take a deep breath because I'm so opinionated for so many reasons. So behavior change is not sexy. We pull up our Instagram, we pull up our TikTokers, and we look at this like, before and after pictures, and it's just like, wow, that looks easy. And the thing that in our how many seconds are reels? Like, I don't know, 30 to
Yeah,
90
15
seconds.
seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, those clips are so short. They don't talk about the process. They don't talk about what does their day-to-day look like, what do their failures look like, what do their successes look like. The thing of it is when we look at quick behavior change, my advisor said best or you could have the best outcome but a shitty process. The devil is in the details, and the details are hard work. It is not sexy what I do, what I represent. I find it very difficult to be in that Instagram market because it's not glamorous. It's hard work, but it's sustainable. One, two, it's probably way more healthy. I'm not going to have you, you know, drink some chalky shake. Like, no thanks. And I I also think it's really tough on us because my goal setting is going to look like yours. I don't have any kids. I have two cats and a dog. Some people are single moms. Some people are experiencing poverty. Some people are very rich, have more money than I do. So I think it's also tough because when it comes to goal setting, we also think about what strengths do you have? So when you're goal setting, another thing is you need to look at what strengths do you have. That can be financial. That can be, well, I have some great running gear that matches. That's cute. I have a husband that will cheer me on. I have really good flavored water, whatever it is. Like, those are strengths you can realize you have that are going to help make goal setting more easy. And everyone has different strengths depending where they are. So I also think that's also very difficult because when you look at social media, you don't know what advantages someone has, you don't know how they did it. You also, it is, like I said, it is outcome. We cannot have those are not behaviors. Those pictures are not behaviors. Those reels are not behaviors. They're not looking at what am I doing? What am I measuring? You know, all that stuff. And we tie our happiness into that. And that is very, very unhealthy. We need to tie our happiness into, man, I just crossed the finish line. I'm so happy. Man, I can finally fit into this size pants. I'm so happy. Like, man, I can actually, like, for me is I can run with my nieces and be a super active and fun aunt. Like, for me, that's very reinforcing. Like, and so it doesn't talk about that. It talks about it's all visual. So I think it's just quick is easy because that's unfortunately in America, it is just what's the quickest way we can do this? How can we, quickness to richness, quickness to weight loss, quickness. it's just like we live in a very fast-paced society, so it's kind of just a huge issue. And of course, it gets blown up on Instagram. So it's very hard to fight. I don't know if it's possible to fight it, but when you're looking at those at night, upsetting yourself, comparing yourself, just don't. Like, you just have to compare yourself to how you're reaching your goals. And I think the analysis comes into, like, if you're failing at your goals, you need to look at, my procedure didn't work. How am I going to do this? Like, do I need to break down a goal? Maybe the reinforcer I chose, I don't care about, but I thought it might be a good one. Like, I don't care about a book. I don't want a book. I wouldn't want a book. Like, I don't care. So I think, looking at ignoring TikTok, finding your happiness and reaching your goals, analyzing maybe, like, I'm not reaching this. Why is that? And really analyzing why it's not happening, and not saying you're a failure, because you're not. The failure is giving up or choosing to find happiness into something that you cannot control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really think that that is so prominent right now, in so many ways, but especially with like the last 2 years, like through the pandemic, right? I feel like it's very drastic one way or the other. Like, people either took that time and like fully got to their goals because they were able to focus, not being, not going here and there and everywhere, right? And then the other side of people were like bogged down even more because now my kids are at home and I have to like homeschool and work from home and like take care of like so many other things that I didn't have responsibility for before. And so even just in the past few years, we can see a lot of comparison that has happened on social media where we think this person, this influencer, this whoever, has it made, if you will, and like makes it look so easy, but we really just don't know the full story. And like, there's no baseline from one person to another for their goals. Like, you just said their resources could be different and things that we're not even seeing, right? Like, someone could have a full ass house, but they also have a chef and someone to clean their home and all of these other resources that person doesn't have to do all of those things. So now they have ample time to work on their other goals or shoot content or go do photo shoots or whatever, that then like we are like, oh my God, we're not doing enough. I'm not showing this enough. I'm not on here enough or present enough, where we just really don't know the behind the scenes of everybody. And we can have the same goal, but it's not linear from one person to another.
And I think yes, and that's huge. My baseline and your baseline, not the same. That's another behavior principle, is looking at your baseline. What is my baseline for running? I don't do it at all. You run every day. Our baseline is going to be completely different. And I really like what you said about, and we don't know. I wanted to be a vegan, and because Ellen DeGeneres was on, my mom's like, Jessica, Ellen DeGeneres has a cook. Like, and you don't. So you might want to reconsider that goal, because also you don't like beans. So like, you're very right. Like, I think you said it very like elegantly.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so in my business and with my clients, I have many like formulas, if you will, of how we break down goals and create attainable milestones. And we kind of touched on that, and the action steps for them. But I would love to know like how you set up your goals and like what tips do you have? Like, what do you use with the knowledge that you have with all of your schooling and everything when you go into a goal? Like, what do you use that makes sense for you?
So the first thing is, you need a good, we call this establishing operation, or if you are a WWer, this is the why. So why the hell am I going to do this goal? And it's got to be good. For so long, I was, overweight, and I was like, I got to lose weight because I'm fat. Well, that's not going to bring me, one, that's a terrible reason to want to lose weight. Two, That's not gonna make me want to get up and go to the gym in the morning. It's not. So, for me, I'm 34 now. So for me, my like my why was I'm about to turn 30. I can't live like I have. It's been a very unhealthy lifestyle. Um, so, for me, and that was a long time ago, but I, again, we are in this quick fix, like crush all the goals all at once society. But many people say, which I agree, start with the eating or the exercise first. You don't want to start with both, especially if you're not doing both at the same time. If you're doing one, then maybe fix the other. But start, if you want to start with, I started with eating because for me, I was in grad school, kind of like what we said, we don't know what people are living through. I was trying to defend my thesis and get the fuck out of school. And I just didn't have time to exercise because I was writing and editing and trying to defend. So for me, I started with eating. So, whether that's, and that was a long time ago, but I would advise someone, if you're eating unhealthy all the time, let's start with like 2 meals. Or, let's hey, I'm gonna eat good 2 out of 5 days of the week, and as you reach success, you can either increase that or keep it the same and add a new goal. And over time, we're shifting and moving those goals and really finding success, whatever it is, and reaching our goals. And of course, our goals change over time. So, for me right now, my goals are making sure I exercise, making sure I eat right, tracking my food, and networking. Um, Something I would never have my clients do, but I'm very terrible at, is sometimes I know what to do, but I don't define it. I just do it. So I messaged you. I was like, schedule these podcast recordings. I'm going to do these exercise classes. But it's really important to, whether it's a planner or written, and say, these are my goals for the month. These are how I'm going to accomplish them. This is what it's going to look like. And at the end of the month, if I've done X, Y, Z at this percentage, I'm going to go get my nails done. My problem is I still get my nails done whether I've had a good month or not. So maybe I need to take my own advice and,
Yes.
sit down because, it's September 8th, so it's still early in the month, and write down what it's going to look like, what I'm going to do, and track those. The important part is also tracking, developing your own sort of tracking system. And again, looking at, for goal setting, tracking, all that, look at it. What are you likely to do? I am not going to color code my goals. I am not detail oriented. I am so much a more of a talker and big dreamer than details. Details are hard for me. So I'm not going to sit and color code with pens my goals. Like, you're lucky if I even wrote it down. Like, that's how I am. That's how I'm wired. So also when it comes to this, figure out how you're wired. Like, make this as easy as possible for you. And going back to the Instagram, we don't like that all that pretty stuff, like that doesn't come easy for me. It might come easy to you. So I think when we're doing those things and when I'm setting up goals, like, I need to look at what's my why, what goals am I going to set up, making sure I break down those goals. Do I have rewards contingent on those? And what am I likely to do to track these goals, to reach these goals? Like, if you, like, I hate HIIT. I'm not going to do HIIT for a workout. So also looking at, what are your preferences? What are your strengths? What do you have available? So I know that's a lot, but those are things I consider when looking at my own goals and stuff, and things that I need to be better at when it comes to goal setting.
Yes. Well, I love because we just came off the topic of quick behavior changes and how it looks so glamorous and easy. and you have the knowledge, right? You have done years of schooling, like you have the knowledge, and you are even admitting like this is hard to do. Like you've accomplished crazy huge goals, but it's still something that you have to work towards and executing all the time, whether it's on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, or a daily basis. Like we have to be working towards these things all the time. And so I think of all the behavior tools, like finding the ones that resonate with you that you can implement. Like if it is the ABCs, or it's like, oh, I'm going to think about the consequence every time, whether that's good or bad, right? That good, awesome runner's high feeling that I feel, or that like, oh, I didn't get to it today, or it didn't look how I thought it was going to look, or whatever, like that punishment feeling. And so like we have to just own, and I love that you were so real about that it's always a constant, we're always constantly working towards it. And it's not just like some things will flow and some things will click and it will work and it will, and that may be a season or it may be a few years or something, and then something happens and you have to like kind of like work your way back to it. And so your realness and saying that even though you have all of this knowledge, I think is like so beneficial to everyone that's listening. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Okay, so one thing I always like to ask at the end is like when it comes to our goals, especially with this conversation, like if you were to recommend one simple action today towards reprogramming our minds, what would that be?
Make sure your behavior that for your goal, so we're going to call your goal behavior, make sure it is realistic and make sure it's defined well. And it's something that you're doing. So remembering that behavior is something you do, something you can see, something you can observe. So can you measure this goal you're setting, and making sure that you have it broken down into a goal that you think you can actually accomplish. And I think from there, you'll learn and grow from that experience.
Yes, love that, love that. Okay, well, I would appreciate if you can share about yourself and like how listeners can connect with you.
Yes, I have an Instagram. It's constructing.dreams. Is that underscore? Yes. So that's my Instagram. You can also email me at JESSWINNE88 at gmail.com. I don't really have a website or anything. I am a full-time behavior analyst at a Texas State Supported Living Center, and so that's what I do during my daytime. But I have lots of different experiences with goal crushing, with performance improvement. They are a very hard industry to be full time in, so I very much love going to my job to make sure that I can pay my rent and learning out there too. So that's kind of what I do, but I'm open to connecting and helping people reach their goals, you know, because for me, I'm reinforced by other people reaching their goals because I think everyone deserves happiness. And you know, I just, even my staff that I work with, I have like, I'm pining for their dreams, and some of them know. And I've moved some of my staff around. Like, I got one a promotion because I really enjoy pining for people's goals because, I really enjoy watching people succeed and live their best life. Like, we all deserve, we live in a crazy, messed up world. Like, just be happy, figure out what makes you happy. And so I'm happy to like connect and help people figure out what that looks like for them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I know that this information is going to be really impactful. So thank you for being here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Taylor. You're amazing.
All right, y'all. It is time for the quote of the episode. This quote is from Kelly Williams Brown. You're a grown up and you get to decide what behaviors affect you for 5 minutes versus what behaviors change you as a person. Take that into your week, your month, maybe even your year, and work through some of these behavior principles to transform you into the best version of yourself. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in my community. I'm so glad you showed up today, and let's go get there. Look at you, crushing it. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Tailor Made Tasty podcast. My hope is you always leave with a takeaway to implement in your own goal-crushing journey. I would love if you could take a moment to leave a review. And if you're looking for a community of goal boss badasses just like you, be sure to check out tailormadetasty.com/membership.